That feeling, that knot in your stomach when you realize something's deeply wrong, you brush it off, telling yourself you're overreacting, but deep down, a tiny voice whispers that you're not crazy, that something isn't right. Today, we're diving into that uneasy feeling. We're talking about emotional abuse, the kind that leaves no visible bruises, but scars your soul. It's about recognizing the subtle ways someone can chip away at your self-worth, leaving you questioning your sanity and trapped in a cycle of negativity. If you've ever felt like you're walking on eggshells, constantly trying to appease someone who's never satisfied, then this is for you. We're going to uncover the hidden signs of emotional abuse. Think of it as a roadmap to help you navigate dangerous territory and reclaim your inner peace. Let's start with constant criticism. It's not constructive feedback. It's a relentless barrage of negativity designed to make you feel inadequate. They might say things like, "Why can't you ever do anything right?" Or, "You're so sensitive. I was just joking." But the jokes always leave you feeling deflated. A woman I knew, Sarah, was constantly told her dreams were silly and her ambitions were unrealistic. Over time, she stopped pursuing them, believing she wasn't good enough. Sound familiar? This constant negativity slowly erodes your self-confidence. You start to doubt your abilities, your decisions, your very worth. You lose sight of who you are and what you're capable of. It's like a slow leak, draining your energy and leaving you feeling empty. This leads us to the next red flag, gaslighting. Gaslighting is a master manipulation tactic where someone twists reality to make you question your own sanity. They might deny things they said or did, even when you have proof. They might tell you that you're remembering things wrong or that you're being too emotional. The goal is to make you doubt your perception of reality, leaving you completely reliant on them. Imagine remembering a conversation vividly, only to be told repeatedly that it never happened. You start to question yourself. Did you imagine it? Are you losing your mind? Then comes isolation. Emotional abusers often try to isolate you from your friends and family, the people who care about you and can offer support. They might badmouth your loved ones, making you believe they're not to be trusted. They might guilt trip you for wanting to spend time with others, making you feel like you're abandoning them. The abuser creates a bubble, ensuring they're the only person you rely on. They might say things like, "Your friends are just jealous of our relationship," or "Your family doesn't understand you like I do." They might accuse you of not caring about them if you want to spend time with other people. This isolation preys on any codependent tendencies you may have, making you feel responsible for their happiness. You become trapped, believing you need to sacrifice your own needs to keep them happy. Think about that for a moment. Are you responsible for another adult's happiness? Healthy relationships are built on mutual respect and support, not on control and dependency. But if you're struggling with codependency or people-pleasing tendencies, you might actually be drawn to this kind of behavior. You might mistake their possessiveness for love, their neediness for affection. That's because, deep down, you have wounds that haven't healed. That's why confronting these issues is so important. It's not just about this relationship, it's about healing the patterns that led you here in the first place. Because a truly healthy person recognizes these red flags immediately and avoids them. They aren't drawn to controlling or manipulative behavior, but if you're carrying around unresolved pain, you might unknowingly participate in these destructive dynamics. It's important to recognize this checklist. Next up, excessive control. We're talking about controlling everything: what you wear, who you talk to, what you eat, where you go. They dictate every aspect of your life, making you feel like you have no autonomy. Remember Sarah? Her partner even controlled what she ate, constantly criticizing her weight and dictating her meals. It's about what you wear, how your hair looks, and just everything about you. You lose yourself in the process. You become completely dependent on them, unable to make decisions or even express your own preferences. You feel like you need their approval for everything. And now for a big one, mood swings. Unpredictable mood swings are a huge red flag. One minute they're showering you with affection, the next they're cold and distant. You never know what to expect, leaving you constantly on edge. This is a sign that someone does not know how to soothe or validate themselves, and they will swing back and forth from kind and loving to mean and nasty. You're walking on eggshells, afraid to say or do anything that might trigger their next outburst. This constant uncertainty creates a state of chronic stress, leading to anxiety, depression, and even post-traumatic stress disorder. It is not a small thing. Mood swings can actually cause PTSD. And then there's manipulation. They manipulate you into doing things you don't want to do, often by using guilt. They might say things like, if you really loved me, you would, or after everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me. They exploit your vulnerabilities and insecurities to get their way. They prey on your lack of boundaries. They know you struggle to say no, so they take advantage of that. If you try to stand up for yourself, you're labeled the bad guy. You're accused of being selfish, ungrateful, or overly sensitive. They might play the victim, seeking sympathy and attention, or they might lash out with anger, yelling, screaming, or even threatening you. The goal is to control your emotions and force you to comply with their demands. If you find yourself constantly questioning whether you're the problem, chances are you're being manipulated. Then comes a lack of empathy. We begin to move into the realm of narcissism. They're dismissive of your feelings, they belittle your concerns, and they simply don't care about what you're going through. They might change the subject when you try to talk about your problems or tell you that you're overreacting. They have no interest in understanding your perspective or validating your emotions. It's crucial to understand that if you are wounded, you will not be able to spot any of this. This is a big one, but if you are wounded, you might not even realize it's happening. You might accept their lack of empathy as normal or even believe that you deserve it. That's why it's so important to work on yourself, to heal the wounds that make you vulnerable to this kind of behavior. It requires getting on the phone, doing coaching, and talking to someone about what's inside, which leads us to shifting blame. Emotional abusers are masters of avoiding responsibility. They never admit fault. They always find a way to blame you or someone else for their mistakes. They might say things like, if you hadn't done that, I wouldn't have reacted that way, or you made me do it. They deflect, deny, and distort reality to avoid taking ownership of their actions. And if you're someone who over-apologizes or constantly tries to please others, you might unknowingly enable this behavior. Your need for approval makes you an easy target for their blame-shifting tactics. You desperately want them to love you, so you willingly accept responsibility for their actions, even when it's not your fault. But most people don't know this because they are deep into codependency. It causes problems in your relationship because they want someone to love them or are so desperate not to rock the boat and set a boundary. And then there's jealousy and possessiveness. This often ties in with isolation. They try to control who you interact with, accusing you of cheating or flirting even when you're not. They might monitor your phone calls and text messages, demanding to know who you're talking to and what you're saying. They might even fabricate entire scenarios in their head, fueled by their own insecurities and paranoia. And in some cases, you might even find yourself attracted to this behavior, mistaking it for love or devotion. Again, this goes back to your own unresolved issues. And finally, unpredictability. The communication is inconsistent. The last sign is unpredictability. Their behavior is erratic and unpredictable. One day, they're loving and attentive. The next, they're cold and distant. They might give you the silent treatment for days, then suddenly shower you with affection. They might ignore your messages 1 minute and then yell at you the next. You're constantly on edge, never knowing what to expect. It is dysfunctional and an emotionally abusive relationship, and it's scary. You're living in a state of constant confusion and anxiety. The list goes on and on. At this point, you are beyond frustrated, straight up confused. It is a scary thing, and it can cause PTSD. So, what do you do if you recognize any of these red flags in your relationship? Remember, it doesn't matter if it's a friendship, family member, or romantic partner. The first step is to set boundaries, but you can't set boundaries if you haven't worked on yourself. I'm sorry, you won't be able to because you won't know what the boundary is and you won't be able to follow through. It takes a healthy, strong person to know the boundary, which is my standard, what I think, feel, and will not tolerate. What are your standards? What will you not tolerate? It's going to scare you, but within the boundary umbrella is you being able to follow through with the boundary. You have to now be consistent with what it is you say. If you say something, make sure you follow through. If you have really worked on yourself, you won't be strong enough to do it. That's why it's so important to invest in yourself. Once you've done that inner work, you'll feel strong and empowered. You can then start setting boundaries and enforcing them. You can also take a step back and analyze the relationship, deciding whether it's a relationship you actually want in your life. You won't be afraid to divorce someone just because they've been in your life forever, no matter who they are. This is all about your well-being. And even if there are some relationships you can't leave, you'll at least know the tools and strategies to handle yourself around that person, because it does take a lot out of you, and you absolutely deserve a great relationship, whether it's with a family member, friend, or romantic partner. But it has to start with you. You can learn all the red flags, but being able to handle yourself when you're faced with them is a totally different story, because it has to absolutely start with you. Remember, you are worthy of respect, love, and healthy relationships. Don't settle for anything less.